OSIM. Warga plus 62 emang banyak maunya. Dari drakoran sampai banjir air mata. Nonton action yang mantul. Sampai nonton tendangan cantik. Maksudnya ini, mau nonton apapun, semua ada di video. Mulai dari yang bikin berbunga-bunga, keringet dingin, ketawa, sampai bikin gak ngedip. Jadi, nonton apa sekarang?
Hello everyone and welcome to the members of the media as well as those who are tuning in here today. My name is Natasha. I'm the moderator for today's UniPin Southeast Asia Cyberna 2022, also known as SEACA 2022, and it is one of the biggest tournaments here in Southeast Asia, and it has been held annually since 2018. Now, at this moment, the SEACA Major 2022 has so many various interesting events, And for this event, it is all thanks to our sponsors, OSIM, Inspiring Wellbeing, Monitor Gaming, Samsung Odyssey, as well as our official streaming partner, Video. And of course, this would not be possible without the support of you guys, our partners, our artist allies, as well as our media partners. And for today, we have two speakers today to talk about a little bit about the growth here of esports in Southeast Asia. So let's welcome our first speaker, which is Fikri Rizal Mahrudin, Marketing and Business Development from Moonton Games, as well as Mervin Lai, Director of Playbook Academy. Welcome, guys.
Hey guys, hey everyone. Pleasure to
Okay, so
right.
We're gonna have Fikri first, I guess.
Okay, cool.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so with me right now, I have Fikri Rizal. As I mentioned before, he's one of my longtime colleagues I've worked with. We've worked together in the esports scene when he was a little baby. We've worked together in office, and now we're still working together as I would say talent. I would say behind the scenes guy, a big boss. I would say.
No lah, I'm okay. So yeah, we go way back. But yeah, really honored. Thank you, UniPin, for inviting me. Really honored to be here. Hopefully, I can share a little more insight on, like how we've seen like esports has grow in Malaysia since the start, right? And yeah, I really appreciate like OSIM, Samsung, Odyssey, Video, and Fantech. Thank you so much for supporting this. This is very meaningful for the local esports scene, especially. And thank you for giving us a platform to share some of the things that we have done also. And yeah.
Okay, so Fikri, there's a lot of things I want to talk to you about today, and it's mostly because let's talk about like the esports scene here in Malaysia from then till now. So as you know, back in 2016, I would say was the beginning or the blooming of esports, especially with some of the biggest tournaments happening here in Malaysia. And of course, that kind of like, I wouldn't say it slowed down, but it changed due to the pandemic. So in your opinion, how was the esports industry before the pandemic? What is it like?
I mean, like, I think generally, the esports scene before the pandemic, like everyone was together, right? Like the whole community. There was so much offline events that was happening all across Malaysia. I think back then, Tash, we were also working on Kejohanan Isukan campus together. And we wanted to do so much for the grassroots communities. But then when the pandemic hits, means the strategy hits as well. Because, like when it happened, like everyone was clueless. I think not just us in the esports industry, but every other industry were clueless as well. They don't know how to maneuver their businesses around. So, but then I think things slowly picks up because I think unfortunately, this thing happens to like our industry. Everything can be online. A lot of like all the brands who basically work with offline event, mainly like concerts or sporting events, they don't know how to pivot their business. And one of the ways for them to really penetrate the youngsters back then during the pandemic season was through esports. And then everything happened like online. It was very different. The touch points were different for us as well in terms of like marketing and exposures. But then when everything moves up to, like post-pandemic right now in Malaysia, we just held like our MPL 3 weeks ago. And from an empty mall, we transitioned the mall to a 55,000 footfall. So it was a blessing for us. Yeah.
Honestly, really exciting when you think about it, the change between pre-pandemic esports and now. So, I mean, you just talked about how it's grown. You talked about how it can bring footfall to malls. And honestly, I have to agree with you. I mean, we remember Quill City Mall used to be one of the emptiest malls we've seen in KL. And now almost every weekend, there's so many people coming there to visit. There's so many people coming inside and giving so much business to so many different stores in there as well. Now, in your opinion, with the coming back of LAN events as well, I mean, we just seen Riot Games starting to bring in this, LAN events as well as MPL as well for Moonton. So with these LAN events coming back into the scene, do you think that the scene is starting to grow back better than ever? Or do you think it's a reset back to 2016?
I think it's like I said right just now. It's a blessing in disguise for us within like this gaming space, like this IT technology space, because back then during the pandemic, everyone it's easier for us to basically penetrate the market because people basically have nothing to do, right? So
Right.
they can only consume like videos or media so much, but at the end of the day they require engagement and interaction, and the best way for them to interact with people back then during the pandemic was via games, right? So back then we can see like our game like on a daily basis. A lot of people were started to play our game. We garner like more new users during like the pandemic, but then when the pandemic basically ends, people started to basically have their own life back again. Then we can see that, you know, like the game, the growth of the game is not to say that it drops, but basically people have their own things to do now. But when, you know, that when we have reached out to them during the pandemic, it's easier for us to reach out to them again and started to play the game again, right? So when they have the baseline for us, right, in MLBB is that for each and every esports viewers, they need to play our game first for them to understand the game. Like we cannot just go simply go to a football fan and ask them, hey, come and watch MPL on the show, because when they watch it, they won't understand anything. So I think for us, for me personally, I feel that this is a new adventure and a new journey for the esports industry in Malaysia, especially. It's definitely different than 2016 because the amount of fans that is tuning into esports right now are just different, right? They are a bit more young. They are a bit more open to try out new things. So yeah, it's different than previously lah.
Okay, so now, in your opinion, you mentioned about age ranges. I mean, previously, when we look back in 2016, in my opinion, it felt like the audience was a little bit older. We saw Dota 2 players, League of Legends players, coming into the scene, because a CSGO even, there are a lot more. I think they're around the 20 plus to 30s. And now, if you look at the newer games that just penetrated the market, especially right before the pandemic and during the pandemic, for MLBB players, PUBG Mobile players, even Valorant players, they're a little bit more younger. You can see players from around, I think, 13 to maybe even 17, 18 start to enter the scene. Does this change the way you want to bring in the engagement, or rather the audience, into the game?
For sure. I think like for MLBB as well, like if we don't keep on, getting new users, like the game has already been around for 5 to 6 years already. And like it or not, pandemic takes 2 years of that, time.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think yes, definitely for sure. Like all of the younger generations now, they love like all of this short form video content. Like that is one of the ways for us to engage with them. And it's not just like, I think what we want to do moving forward is really changing esports consumption as a whole. We want to look at esports as an entertainment compared to like the normal sports, right? Because in order for us to really tap into like all of these audiences, like the entertainment element has to be there, has to be important. While they enjoy playing the game, but not everyone wants to watch like another person play a game, right? So we need to build that for them. And basically like the funnel for us to build that for them is to build like the next superstar of Malaysia. We want to find like who is Lemon in Indonesia for Malaysia. We want
Who is Chiku?
Yeah, like we want to go for that route. We want to continue to build the stars, but in order for us to build this, right, Tash, we need to work with a lot of people, really. Like I think this industry can only grow if we can grow like our whole ecosystem. If like governments work together, like the governing body works together, all the brands, media, like everyone needs to work together. Because right now, like we have like this bunch of talent, we have this bunch of cool people that is doing really, really good for the nation, but it's just that we require like all of these people to tell everyone else, like, hey, like we have these stars, and these guys are doing good stuff for Malaysia. Yeah.
Okay, so now that you mentioned that, I have a really curious question for you. So we talked about government and working together here. That's just for local scene. But what about international? I mean, for you personally, I'm sure that working in Munton, you have to work internationally, coming in for MPL Philippines, Indonesia. So how exactly do you enter the scene locally? And is it very different than entering the scene internationally?
I think for internationally, we really work closely with a lot of like government bodies. Like internationally, we work with IESF, and locally we work with KBS, we work with ESI. And I think like for us right now in Malaysia, all the initiatives that the government body is doing, I think it's just a start right now. It's going to progress into like another level in the future, because we saw like recently like what ESI is doing, the EGG. They did like this local news with Iputo,
Yes.
like all of these people, and that is in a way for us to like educate the mass audience to how to consume esports, right? Like esports news. So I think that is just like we are still at the first step and first layer right now. I'm not saying that that what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot more other opportunities, right? And in order for us to achieve that greatness, again, it comes back to like building the ecosystem together, like with everyone, like everyone needs to understand like what is esports and understand like what are the value that esports can bring to the nation.
Okay, speaking about nation, let's talk about international this time. I mean, when you want to talk about going international, having an international scene here in Malaysia, I think we talked about this so many times that people say, hey, let's have Malaysia as an international esports hub. Let's have Malaysia as a country where people know Malaysia as for a particular esport. In your opinion, what's the best way to have our country grow internationally in terms of esports?
I think when you say that, right, like I think we can break it down to a few material, right? I think the first one, something good that we did was we organized MSC 2022, Mobile Legends Saudi Asia Cup in Malaysia. And it was like the second esports tournament, MLBB International Esports Tournament that was held in Malaysia. The first one is M Series. And fun fact, like MLBB Esports, Malaysia is actually the birthplace of MLBB Esports, to those who don't know. So I think like there's so much things that we can do, right? There's so much things that we can bring. There's so much international tournament that we can bring to Malaysia at this current moment. But what I feel is that right now the reason I think we are there in terms of like international success, but the thing is a lot of people in Malaysia don't know that we have this success, right? I think that is the main issue right now. Like recently during what tournament was that? When we held like a few championship. I think it was can't remember. Like, I think there's this one international tournament that was organized recently, and I think Malaysia won several gold medals.
Is it the SEA Games?
No. It was prior to SEA Games. It was held in Birmingham in the UK.
Oh, I know. I think I know what you're talking about. Olympic.
No, it's not
Olympics?
Yeah, it's something related
around
to that.
right?
Yeah,
But we had a Dota 2 girls team there. Yes.
And we had all of those success as well, right? So the thing is that like in Malaysia right now, very unfortunately that we don't see. I mean, it is covered, right? But does it stay in the top of mind of every Malaysians? It's not like football, like when Malaysia won football in the AFF Suzuki Cup, it was still remembered, right? But unfortunately for esports, it was not as remembered as like all the other traditional sports. So I think what we need to do right now is changing the perspective. And in order for us to do this, again, right, it falls back into like everyone working together as one unit in growing the esports landscape. Yeah.
Okay, in your opinion, do you think that marketing might be a difference, might be the one reason why the awareness is not there just yet? Perhaps more, we already see government body officials actually, kind of like advocating for esports, but do you think more can be done? Because when you think about it, what's hot on the market right now is like football. You can see the amount of marketing money that comes through. What do you think can kind of like pull more advertisers or more members of the media to talk and share more about esports?
Right. So we used to work in a media company, right? So we kind of understand like what are the challenges and difficulties back then when we were working with a media company. It's just that I feel in order for us to educate like the general mass audiences, we need to educate the people who are churning out the content first, right? So meaning like the traditional mass media. So but in MLBB we are already doing it right now. What we are doing is that we're having like a closer relationship with some of the media partners, and we can see that media like like RTM, like this old school media, but they are now reporting about like MLBB esports, and the things that they report about are not just on the surface level anymore. Before this, it's like, Todak menang MPL Malaysia, Todak wins MPL Malaysia, or like some other team wins MPL Malaysia, or this team represents Malaysia to an international tournament. But right now, they are talking about like the gameplays already. So I think slowly, right? And the thing about esports is it's so diverse. There's a lot of like game categories. So I think that is one of the big challenges like for these media companies, for them to understand each and every game. I think once like they understand all of this, then I think the news can be spread out even higher.
Right, I absolutely agree. So I have a curious question for you, especially since you are working under Moonton. What do you think? Where do you think esports is going to be in 5 years? Is it going to be huge, booming? Is it going to be as good as football yet? What do you think?
Wow, like I can only speak for Malaysia. Like if MLBB esports don't go further, then it's gonna be on me, yo. Right? So I'm gonna do whatever it takes. Really, like we like all of the people right now. I think in this call also we have Mervin. All of us are very passionate in growing esports in Malaysia. We want to see like esports grow to a certain height in Malaysia and above and beyond like our expectation, right? So I think esports is still going to be great, and it's going to go greater than ever before. Reason behind this is because of the amount of users that is playing the game, the amount of people, and the youngsters are growing right now. So we can see that these people, they are basically much more aware of this esports landscape, this gaming industry as a whole, and then when they love the game, they potentially are going to watch the esports tournament. So that is my hope and my dream. And really, like if to answer back your question, I feel that this industry is just starting and it's going to grow to a different height in the next 5 years.
All right. So as we go to the next 5 years, what do you think is something that we have to look out for or take care of as we navigate forward?
Right. So I think as we navigate forward, I feel one thing that is really important, right? One thing, the thing that I realized about the differences of like our esports ecosystem right now is the people who are working behind the scene at this current moment, at this current juncture, because we see a lot of people right now who are in this esports are no longer those people from the gaming industry. They're coming in from different industries. They are like people who are from like the advertising agency, media companies, sports advertisements agency and companies. These are all the people who are venturing into esports right now, and they bring in this tons of like expertise, right? So in order for us to really take care, like if you ask me like what do we need to take care of, is we need to take care of the job opportunities in esports. We need to constantly make it a bit more open, like we a bit more open, and those people, you need to basically tell yourself that there are a lot of other people who are who deserve like your space, but in order for you to maintain your spot, you need to keep on shining, right? Because there's a lot of competition. We need to keep like the job opportunities there. I think that's for one. I think the second one is that like I mentioned to you, the most important thing is there's no one person championing everything, right? We need a lot of people who works with each other. Like some companies, they are good in production, so then you manage the production. Then we need more companies. Like these companies might be good in PR and media. This company might be good in marketing and advertising. So a lot of more people needs to work together. I think that's the second one. I think in the third one, the most important thing is that we continue to build the we continue to support and build the interests of the younger generation. At the same time, we need to cultivate them. We need to ensure that they have like this life balance. I think that's really important. Ensuring that like these kids, like these future generations, you can game like 100%, right? You can game, but in order for you to game well, you need to focus on other stuffs as well, like in your life, right? So these are the three things that I feel that for us, in Malaysia, we should focus on. Like number one, job opportunities. Number two, like working together, and number three, maintaining the interests of the younger generations. Yeah.
All right, that's very fair. I wonder if that is something you tell your kid. Hey, boleh main game tapi kena buat homework lu. Betul tak?
Yeah, that is something that I always tell my kids. Yeah.
Okay, that actually reminds me. For you guys who don't know as well, there's actually what you mentioned about getting the younger people's interest. There's actually one women's organization here, Women Girls, who actually I had collaborated with in the past, where we actually had a whole curriculum written down for the girls on how exactly to go into esports, how to play MLBB, how to even had small little tournaments while maintaining good work-life balance and instilling, would say like discipline, teamwork, as well as communication, which I really, really hope in the future that this particular, I would say, curriculum would be put into schools. Now, in your opinion, would you think that having a curriculum like that for school in general, not as extracurricular, but in the curriculum itself, would that be a huge change?
I think we need to take it like a step-by-step dash. I think the first and foremost, I think what Mervyn is doing right now, I think that is really meaningful, because like I mentioned to you right just now, like in order for people to really love like this industry, they need to understand the industry first. And we can, if we were to make this as a curriculum in schools at this current moment, right, we are pushing the narrative to them. Right? We are pushing the narrative to the kids. We are not giving options to the kids. What we should do right now is give options to the kids and ask them, right, if this is something that they want or not. So if not, it'll be the same as history, like learning history, learning maths, right? When this thing is something that is fun, like even though it has a future, but we need to take it step by step. We need to see, like what are the private organizations are doing first, and we need to cultivate that, providing options to all of these kids. If they want to learn and this is the way to go, then we make it as, like a co-curriculum, right? I think that is something that we can do in future, but to make it as a curriculum, there's a lot of things that we need to do in the background first in order to make sure that, like this thing would work for our future generation.
Oh, that's fair. Now, you mentioned community, you mentioned grassroots, and I think this is something that's very close to your heart, especially since you've worked on KIT before, back when you were in Rev Media. So now, how has the community been a fundamental part of the industry, and how does it help the industry grow?
Right. So I think, like for me in the marketing and business development perspective, right, community keeps us in check. Right, we engage with our community. The community is growing, but really in terms of like marketing and BD, I feel that the community keeps us in check. They tell us, they will let us know, like, this particular content doesn't work well. This is something that we want. Like for example, the reason why we did MPL Malaysia Season 10 in a mall, because we received so much requests from our community, and we understand our community, right? The last time that we did an offline event was back in Season 3, right? In a mall event back then was Season 3. And then after the pandemic, so we thought like, hey, you know what? It's something nice that we could give back to our community. All this while we are doing it in a small convention area. Let's try and open it up and give it for free for everyone to enjoy and watch it. So because of community, we can understand better like what do they want. And if we don't have like this community, right, then I feel that it's really hard for us to keep ourselves in check, and to really deliver the things that our community actually wants. Yeah, our fans actually wants. Yeah.
Oh, that's fair enough. Now let's talk a little bit more about the community. You talk about like your fans and your and tournaments and all that kind of stuff. I mean, these are all for pro level. But what about for KIT? I think you guys were more. Yeah, you guys were more focused on the I would say the amateur side, the smaller teams. So what do you think is the benefit of having these sort of small tournaments for the amateur players as well?
Right. So it acts as a stepping stone, like for all of these people who aspire to be inside like this professional esports ecosystem like MPL, right? In order for them, so the role of MPL Malaysia, like the professional scene, is to provide a platform, the highest professional platform for everyone to play in, and for a content or like a medium for them to consume in. That is the role of like MPL Malaysia, to showcase to everyone that we are the highest level of tournament. Then once like as a person, right, as a person's journey, they understand that, like I play MLBB, then I watch Chiku, or like I watch Team Hawks recently won MPL Malaysia. Like I'm inspired by that. How do I, have like a stepping stone, right? So stepping stone is first of all, you can join like our community groups like in WhatsApp. Think that is or you can join like, our community Facebook group, and you can be part of like the regular community tournament. And then when you're ready, right, then you can join like all the other third-party tournaments. I know that UniPin organizes like a lot of like third-party tournaments as well. A lot of like organizers third-party tournaments. So this is where they can basically test their skills and test their performance. And once they are ready for the next step, then they can, enter the qualifiers of like MPL Malaysia. So there's a complete pyramid ecosystem for MPL Malaysia, for MLBB Esports. So you can play from the amateur level, and then you can go to any semi-pro tournaments that are out there. And as a player, right, there's two ways for you to go into like the professional level. It's either you can go from like the qualifying, or you're so good, like all of these third-party tournaments, that one professional team saw you, and then they said, hey, I want to get this guy to be part of like my team. So that is what happens actually from a lot of like our rookies in MPL Malaysia this season.
That reminds me, I wanted to ask you, for your community tournament side, what was the biggest challenge you faced?
I think the biggest challenge in terms of like our community tournaments previously was that during the pandemic, I think it's because of like the investments generally into like the industry. Even though like a lot of people were looking to find where can they penetrate like esports fans, there are still, because esports is still relatively very, very new in Malaysia, even though it has been in Malaysia for past 7 to 8 years, but a lot of brands are only starting to learn about this industry, right? So when there's less investment in this industry, meaning there's less tournaments. So I think before this, the challenge was, how do we get people to organize tournament, right? Like how do we get a lot more brands to organize this esports tournament? So I think that was the first challenge. And I think the second one is that the biggest challenge is really working closely with a lot of like everybody else. So a promotion can only go so far if you're the only person who is doing it. But if you're working with a lot more people, then the word of mouth of the sharing of the promotion can go even higher. So then when people know about your tournament, then only they can participate in the community tournaments.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Fikri, for that awesome insight. Because for now, I would like to invite our second speaker of the day. Let's invite over here Mr. Mervin Lai, Director of Playbook Academy. Hi, Mervin. How are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Tash. In the gaming, publishing, and esports scene for really long enough, have an opportunity to actually step in way earlier and pretty much play a lot of roles. And lately, I'm actually venturing into much of like an education for esport initiative. The main reason basically, I've gone through a lot of bumpy roads and challenges back then when I involved in esports. Taking a step back and to take a look in the industry is still booming, growing. Yet more passionate young enthusiasts is actually getting on board, and they will eventually face the same issue that I faced years ago. So I see the opportunity to actually develop the grassroots through educations, and also to keep the ecosystem check as well.
Right. So just now, me and Fikri were talking about ecosystem as well as grassroots movement. So I'm just curious to
thoughts like Fikri, pandemic kept us at home, having less options for entertainment. Games are always the best available options. And what's more, right now, the game that we mostly play are free to play. We can get to enjoy entertainment game at a very, very entry level, very low cost and affordable. That's how gaming has been booming every time when there is such a such a crisis, been through the circle. This is my second time we call about economy crisis or pandemic per se. Pandemic actually gave us even crazily impact to the game industry, I would say.
Right. So now as we go after the pandemic, obviously we have, I would say, a higher number of players playing the game now, especially as those jumped into the game during the time. So because of that, we also have a lot of younger players, as mentioned by Fikri as well, that we are seeing a lot more younger people coming into the game, into games such as MLBB, as mentioned by him, into games like PUBG Mobile. So now, do you think, how is the esports scene now after the pandemic? How much has it grown? And how does it affect you as someone in the education side?
So there's no esport if there's no game to begin with. So this is the thing that I think everyone need to understand. So all these esports is actually started from the community that play the game first, and then there is competitive scene tournaments ongoing whereby you have professional gamers competing for certain tournaments, certain prize pool, or certain title medal per se. That actually grow the scenes much bigger, and the thing that we are doing right now, because the community are much more larger compared to yesterday, then there is needs for actually to educate the young passionate enthusiasts, gamers or esport lover, that what is this industry about, how can you play a role if you are really passionate in such a field, where can you learn it from, what do you need to actually learn, educate yourself, what kind of opportunity, what kind of profession that actually is there for you to explore. So this is actually the lacking part behind. I believe it's not just in Malaysia, it is globally global issue as well.
Right. So how do you think we can change that perspective? I mean, for a lot of parents, they think working in esports is just playing video games all day. They don't have that awareness that in esports, you can have so many different jobs. It's basically your everyday job. Esports is a job. There's an esports lawyer like Rick Wee. You have a business development like Fikri. You have journalists. You have, the developers as well. So previously, I did write an article on that back in IGN Southeast Asia to educate. But what do you think can be done more?
Just do more. I agree with you. It's just like many of us is still normal human being. We do not know what we do not know, and especially right now we are talking about 21st century. There's so much more profession, so much opportunity, so much more on the net. Our parents or even our grandparents do not know. It's not just there's only few profession, whether it's a doctor, lawyer, accountant, a pilot. So there's so limited choice. But right now we live in an era, there's so plenty more job opportunity, more industry that you can actually go explore and go discover. That's why human beings, kids right now, we have more passions because we are exposed to more stuff, more things. That's the reason why we wanted to. My academy, our motto is actually turn passion into profession. Let you discover what do you love for, and then we are a platform to help you bridge what you love, what you passionate, and then go explore further, empower you with greater information that the things that you love.
Right. So speaking about your academy here, I just would like to know and let the audience know, what exactly do you offer at your academy in terms of turning passions into professions? Do you only offer in terms of esports, or are there like kind of paths or career ways into going into different branches of esports itself?
So to begin, I believe when I speak about passion into profession, my passion, there's three, there's definitely more than one. Not just gaming and esports, my passion is also into entrepreneurship, business. So things that I'm doing right now is still a startup at Academy. I love to disrupt and get into something relatively new, so that we can actually set the tone, set the pace, set the rules. So I started with Esport Academy first, mainly because there's huge mass students or you target users interested in gaming and esports, and yet the check and balance, the demand and supply is not met yet. The equilibrium is not there. Meaning to say, in layman terms, is there's so many students interested in gaming and esports, yet there's no academy, no school, no college, no universities is actually offering such a space, such a industry for education. So we came in to actually solve the problem, to close up the gap. If you have passion in esports, passion in gaming, go find out, go discover. So we start with something foundation, something fundamental. Let you explore what is game, what's meant by professional gaming, what is the esport management perspective. You cannot everyone dream or set their goal to be Datuk Bira Lee Chong Wei when they play badminton. Okay, but then the reality check, there's only one Datuk Bira Lee Chong Wei. There's only few which is come closer to it. Then what's next? Can you still be involved in the game, in the industry, in the sport business? So that's where the esport management complement. And yet, what's more, you cannot actually create badminton or create football, but in the gaming industry, you actually can develop games, which is also the third path that we are actually developing, building up, exposing more grassroots students. Actually, this is the potential, this is the pathway, this is the industry that you can actually explore if you are passionate in gaming and esports.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about international wise. I mean, now that what you're doing is more for local, so do you think internationally something like this is very, very viable? Do you think it's something that other countries have been doing?
When I started 3 years ago, that's my first proof of concept stage. I did some check, there's no university, no college is actually offering anything related to esports. When I Googled the word esport or degree, I couldn't find any. But as of now, there is more than 10 university or college is actually offering a degree in esport, whether it's business management in esport or esport management or bachelor science. So there's so many more to actually refer on, from US to UK to Australia, not to even mention China and Korea, which is more established scene in esports as well. So we are trying to do something similar in Malaysia, but before we go into university, we will start with something like an academy first. And for the record, we are also partnering with a couple of colleges already to offer more programs when it comes to esports learning.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about 5 years ahead, 5 years down the line. What are you expecting to see in terms of esports and education? How big do you want it to be? What kind of changes do you want to see?
There's a lot, I don't think so I can sum it up in short time, but let me try. There's two main things. One thing is grassroots development. So I separate my target users or demographic into two parts. One is 18 and below, which we want to address the grassroots. So we work with government bodies and also schools to actually try to close up the gap. If our students is interested in gaming and esports, give them a platform to understand better what is esports about, what kind of profession can we curate from esports, and so on. This is actually the thing that we are developing from education perspective, and it's not done yet. There's a lot of parties to educate, to cultivate, to make them understand the benefit behind esports and not just the negativity about gaming and addiction and stuff. So a lot to do.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about about the community. I mean, you always talked about the grassroots movement, and I think it is very fundamental when you think about it. When you do touch the community as a whole, it starts to grow into something even more. So, in your opinion, is it because of the grassroots itself you think that education awareness is much more viable for esports? Do you think that even without, say that there wasn't really, I would say, a community effort when it comes to this esports, do you think that this education would be something that you would have come up with?
Definitely, I can agree with you. Is there definitely community efforts, or there is a community before we have there is something for us to develop or solve a problem. So our initiative is we see the problem, they see the gap. So that's how we jump on and create something to offer a value. If you create something without a value, there's no market for you to be addressed as well. That's my perspective. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. So for now, thank you so much, Mr. Mervin Lai. I'd like to bring Fikri back into the conversation here because I would like to have a three-way conversation.
For us, in terms of like the IP holder, we would want to work closer with not just Mervin but any other organization in terms of like, to educate the audience about gaming and esports in the nation. I think this goes across like all the other countries that we are in as well, be it Indonesia, be it in the Philippines. Because we know for a fact, like I mentioned to you just now, like Tash, in the earlier conversation, is that the industry is growing right now because a lot more people from all the other industry are throwing their experiences in this esports industry. And with that being said, right, if we can have a lot more people to come to this industry with different ideas and different background and educate them about esports and gaming, the opportunities that are there, then they can bring more things, to the table and grow like the ecosystem all together with us. Yeah, so that is how I feel that how we can work together with everyone. I think the first and foremost is to get the awareness, and then the funnel goes on, get the interest, make them be part of the industry. Yeah, and I feel also encourage a lot more esports people or gaming people to go out there and join like all of these good initiatives from UniPin, to give talks, to give their thoughts on all of these platforms, really like to just showcase, like what are they doing and how can a lot more people, be part of this and grow together. Yeah.
All right.
Their rules, their compliance. For Malaysia-wise, one thing for sure that I encounter when I work with MOE is basically one thing is no violence game. So they definitely couldn't promote anything which is violence to the students at their age. But back to your questions, definitely more game publishers or more IP owners have to invest their efforts, play their roles, actually to get into the grassroots students market, to actually explore what can we offer, what kind of value that we can bring, not just by introducing our games per se, but beside entertainment, what can they drive out from the community. So it's have to put the community at heart first, and then the rest later. That's my opinion. Yeah.
I think in terms of like the education level, right, the first and the foremost thing, I do agree with what Mervin said. We need to put like our community at heart. But in order for us to tap into like any community interest, we need to deliver some sort of content that would make them aware of the industry and make them interested about this industry. So when they are interested about this industry, I think the first and foremost, they would feel that, hey, I want to play inside this particular tournament. And then after that they will realize, oh, like this tournament they have a good production. Like, I think I'm studying mass comm right now. So how do I become like part of this? Like how do I become like a broadcaster? Or they would say that they will look at some of the social media posts and they'll say like, I'm very interested about social media and digital promotion. So how can I play a role in this, right? So I think that in a way could help, in my personal point of view. So I think it's really like tapping into like their awareness and interest first, and then slowly, right, without like pushing like hard sell to them and tell them that you need to study about gaming esports, like the back end of it. First of all, awareness, interest, giving them options on the things that they want to penetrate in. Then after that, only they will come. Yeah, that is my personal point of view.
Okay. Campus level or college level, I'm really curious to know what you think about in terms of how exactly these players can grow from school level all the way up to pro. I mean, we know that in schools right now, some of the schools actually have esports club. We've seen it in universities. I think some of the most I've known, I mean, I myself was a VP of the IIUM esports club. So do you think that having this esports club can kind of help kind of grow the idea of competitiveness? I mean, we do see sports clubs in a lot of other universities and schools, like say UKM versus UM, perhaps in football. Do you think that having this sort of collegiate level, like what you have Kejohanan campus, will help kind of grow the game a little bit more? And do you think it's better to start in university instead of primary school or secondary school?
Saksikan campus, right? Previously, like one of the goals was we understand that as a university student, you are an educated person, and you bring like a higher share of voice when it comes to like changing your parents' perspective, right? About like a certain things. If you go to like a secondary school back then, I'm saying like this back then, when you go to like a secondary school kids, when they tell their parents that, hey, like I'm going to participate in this particular tournament, would you want to come and watch? They would have like a different idea compared to like a university level student, because back then, as a university student, you kind of like have like like I mentioned, like a higher share of voice, and also you are basically nearer when it comes to like making decision for yourself, right? Because some of these kids, they can make their own decision, and some of these kids, they need to request their permission from their parents. But yeah, so I think right now we can see that in terms of like the audience of like MLBB, we can see that they are currently right now slowly transitioning. Before this, they were from high schools, and then they become like university students, and then now that they're working. But we are slowly getting back like new users from the university students, slowly getting back users from the high schoolers, right? So if you, I think really like if you want to start, I think the university level is a good. But of course, like if we wanna, the earlier the earlier you start, the better it is. So if you can get and try and penetrate in the high school students, I think that is the best lah, basically. Yeah, same goes to like like how the world is changing right now. A decision, the better it is, right? Yeah, so that is my point of view.
All right, what about you, Marvin? Do you have anything else to add?
Yes, I have slightly different perspectives, different thought. When it comes to sports, I take reference from football, badminton, to even racing. I shared. I remember our only F1 driver, Alex Yong, Malaysia F1 driver, shared this to us. If our drivers, our athletes in Malaysia can actually start practicing driving the hobby since at a very, very young age, we would groom up, nurture a different level of talents. That being said, I can agree to that. But at the same time, parental consent is another issue. Fact check, I wanted to address this to Fikri. If I'm not mistaken, MLBB taking professional gamer as young as 16 years old as well?
For MPL Malaysia,
this could be a good initiative, Yeah. But at the same time, we need to take care of parental consent, educations, which play an important role to actually cultivate and educate all stakeholders in the country.
Yep, speaking of that, I mean, if we look at esports nowadays, I mean, even if we go into content, right, we see all these montages of people saying 13-year-old absolutely dominates Shroud in CSGO or something like that. So these are very, very young players. And even myself, if I am going into a game, you can hear in the comms, a child maybe at least 10, 13 years old are already there. So because of this exposure to, I think, video games, I think some level of awareness should be there. But what do you think would be the best way to approach this? Should it be already, should we have maybe in school online etiquette? Or should we have an idea on how to talk to people online? Because as Pikri said, this is a whole different world now where we have real life as well as our virtual life.
In my opinion, one of the initiatives which we are driving, we want to get school council teacher to be educated, to understand, to aware what is trending right now, what's the world is moving towards content, video gaming, esports. So the educator themselves, the school councils themselves need to understand this part first before they can actually advise or educate or even explain to their students. So this is one of the initiatives which we are trying to play a part in this journey.
So I'm really curious to know about this initiative that you have. Are you inviting school counselors to have a program on your end, or how does this program work? How do you invite them to see, and what is the awareness like?
Currently is pretty much one-way traffic. We go to them through all our network and our approaches. We go to whether there's a event, whether there's a gathering of school teacher, or whether it's a one school to another school one by one over the weekend. Still trying. There's no ultimate answer to it at the moment. That is also a reason we are also talking to multiple government agencies, or even the ministry themselves, about our initiative, our offering. We are not actually asking for any remuneration by doing that. This is our so-called. We need to do more CSR or PSA per se.
Right. So I'm really curious to know how exactly it goes. Hopefully in the future, you will be getting more people that goes through that. But thank you guys so much for spending time here with us, Pikri, as well as Mervin Lai. Do make sure to follow them and just find out more, to ask them if you guys want to connect or even want to know more about their initiatives here with the Fikri on the side of Munton, as well as Mervin on the side of Playbook Academy. That's for now, guys. I really, really want to have a group photo with you guys, if possible. Let's bring back to the three-person screen, yeah? Shall we? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much to our sponsors, OSIM, Samsung Odyssey, Video, Fantech, and because I am just really curious and so happy to be here today. So again, sorry, what? Okay, so anyways, guys, thank you guys so much to OSIM Inspiring Wellbeing Monitor, our gaming Samsung Odyssey, as well as official streaming partner Video, as well as the Oh, okay. I don't know what happened there. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much. This event is thanks to our sponsors, OSIM, Inspiring Wellbeing Monitor, Gaming Samsung Odyssey, as well as our official streaming partner Video, support of our partners, Artist Alley, and media partners. I'm Tash Bunny alongside Mervin and Fikri. It was a pleasure to have you guys with us here today at the UniPin Southeast Asia Cyber Arena 2022, or SEACA 2022. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
OSIM. Warga plus 62 emang banyak maunya. Dari drakoran sampai banjir air mata. Nonton action yang mantul. Sampai nonton tendangan cantik. Maksudnya ini, mau nonton apapun, semua ada di video. Mulai dari yang bikin berbunga-bunga, keringet dingin, ketawa, sampai bikin gak ngedip. Jadi, nonton apa sekarang?
Tak pernah ku berhenti, tak pernah ku menyerah.
Untuk raih peluang, untuk ambil keputusan.
Bisnis Indonesia, navigasi bisnisku. Bisnis Indonesia.
Bisnis Indonesia, navigasi bisnis terpercaya.
Perkenalkan, ini aplikasi terbaru kompas.com. Kamu bisa baca berita lebih nyaman. Buka aplikasinya, scroll, swipe, klik, dan baca berita yang kamu mau. Yang paling penting, iklannya lebih tertata dan tidak mengganggu. Semua topik favorit kamu ada di sini. Berita hari ini semua ada di ujung jari. Download sekarang, baca berita lebih nyaman.
OSIM. Warga plus 62 emang banyak maunya. Dari drakoran sampai banjir air mata. Nonton action yang mantul. Sampai nonton tendangan cantik. Maksudnya ini. Mau nonton apapun, semua ada di video. Mulai dari yang bikin berbunga-bunga, keringet dingin, ketawa, sampai bikin gak ngedip. Jadi nonton apa sekarang?
Tak pernah ku berhenti, tak pernah ku menyerah.
Untuk raih peluang, untuk ambil keputusan.
Bisnis Indonesia, navigasi bisnisku. Bisnis Indonesia.
Bisnis Indonesia, navigasi bisnis terpercaya.
Perkenalkan, ini aplikasi terbaru kompas.com. Kamu bisa baca berita lebih nyaman. Buka aplikasinya, scroll, swipe, klik, dan baca berita yang kamu mau. Yang paling penting, iklannya lebih tertata dan tidak mengganggu. Semua topik favorit kamu ada di sini. Berita hari ini semua ada di ujung jari. Download sekarang, baca berita lebih nyaman.